Along comes the e-tailers, such as Google and Facebook, and particularly Amazon, Alibaba, and Tencent, and undermine this thesis. And with the growth of fake news, the privacy, brand safety, political interference debates that have bedeviled Google and Facebook, and to some extent Amazon recently, there's been a tremendous focus on privacy in that point. And that has driven the platforms to put the walled gardens, the walls in the walled gardens, higher. And that has really concerned our clients, I think, and they've been very worried about it. And the importance of first-party data linked to content and digital media becomes even more important. The best example that I've come across, and I have my colleagues here from Media Monks, Victor, with me here in India as we on the cusp of opening up S4 Capital and Media Monks here in India in the next few days. As we look at the model that is most appropriate for what I'm talking about, one of the most, not the only one, would be a Netflix-type model, where we take the content, we develop the content in many ways, creatively inserting content into digital masters such as Narcos, and then we feed that content into programmatic media buying, depending on the behavior of the consumer. So this model, driven by data, is critically important. S4 Capital is purely about digital. So we're very focused on the 40% of client budgets, or around that suffuses digital at the moment. So the industry is about 1 trillion. I know there was a broker's circular that came out recently that pegged it at 1.7 trillion as a market. It's an important point to make. The additional 700 billion came mainly from trade budgets, about 400 billion. That 400 billion is the stuff that Amazon goes after. That is the battleground for Amazon in developing its advertising budgets through the trade budgets of clients. But if you take the 1 trillion basic, which is certainly what Group M would peg the market at, about half of that is in old stuff, traditional stuff, and half in new stuff. And digital is around 200 billion of that trillion. And of course, the dominant players in that are Google, last year at about 125, Facebook at about 52 billion, and then you drop down to Amazon and Microsoft at about 10 billion each. So that gives you a rough idea of the dynamics, but that's where we're totally focused on with that holy trinity, as I put it.
Martin, you've run out of your quota for plugging your company. Now, I think now move on to conversations we've had outside of this hall today. The one word which kept popping up, and perhaps it came up in Mr. Bachchan's speech this morning and so on, was transparency. How is transparency going to change the business? How is it already changing the business? Well, the need for transparency more than transparency.
India is, to my mind, a really interesting market from a number of points of view. I mean, I've been coming here on and off for about 30, 33, 35 years. And the business at WPP here is dominant. It's not the largest market share that WPP has in the world. I think that probably would be Vietnam. But it's roughly about 50% of the market, partly because of the wonderful brands in India that have been developed at J. Walter Thompson, at Ogilvy and beyond, and obviously in more recent years with Group M.